And the
podcast
begins with a song of rebellion.
How can this
podcast.
be my life?
CD Burners.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to CD Burners. Today we're talking about Alkaline Trios from Here to Infirmary.
Hello, assholes, you f***ing assholes.
Okay, you can't swear like that out the gate.
The first.
You gotta
just
at least
bleep it. Just bleep it.
wait till
Just
we get
bleep it.
into the show a
Okay,
little.
yeah, I forgot that YouTube is like, don't do that.
And Spotify and Apple
Okay,
and
just
everybody.
bleep it. Just bleep it. What if you
everybody's
bleep
mad
it?
at
What if
us.
it bleeps?
Okay, well, today we're talking about an album by Alkaline Trio that came out in 2001, April 3rd, 2001. April 3rd, 2001.
I didn't do any. Well, I did, but I didn't.
do
There was like
any
facts. There's
research?
like the facts. Like
You did no research.
no, I
That's what-
did research. I did do research, but I didn't like. There's certain things where it's like I felt like this was like a fun. I had a fun time doing this because I forgot that I do like Alkaline Trio, and I think that there's like a lot of I think there's a lot of things that are important about Alkaline Trio, and things that like I had specifically happen or like happened to me that in my life that were like revolved in some way, shape, or form around Alkaline Trio.
Would you say that you have a lot to say about this album?
Not
You don't have a lot to say about an album?
I think I have strong opinions about it that might seem
Shocking,
that might seem like
outlandish.
mean spirited,
Okay.
but they're not. They're like actually it's like a positive.
Yeah.
It's like a positive thing.
Well, guys, if you've never listened to the show before, we're going to dive in a little bit, talk about the album, some of the like background, some of the facts, some of the like random lore that we were able to find out about the album. And then at the end of the show, we're going to have an interview with Dan Adriano from Alkaline Trio, who, if you don't know, he's the second vocalist of the group.
He plays bass too, right?
Does he?
Yeah, he might. I think he also is Italian.
Yeah, he's bassist. Adriano.
Yeah, I think he also is an Italian.
He's
guy.
the bassist.
He's the Italian guy in the group.
What do you think Matt Skiba is?
Matt Skiba is he's Ukrainian. So whatever that is.
Okay. Well, cool. Yeah, these guys are from Chicago. They're a big Chicago band. And it's really, to me, I think like the best way I can describe this album, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or you can describe it another way, but I think it's kind of like pop punk without the jokes. It's like a very like dark, gothy pop punk.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. But it's like, there's a thing about it that like I have a hard time finding the pop punkness in it.
Yeah, no, I understand that too. I guess I just don't really know how to describe it. It is like, it's punk, but it's not like.
It feels alternative to me. Feels like an
Okay.
alternative rock.
It's punk, but it's got the like jawbreaker emo-ness to it. To me, it sounds like it's paving the way for bands like Bayside, which I'm not the biggest Bayside fan either. Like, I think that they came from punk. They came from the Chicago punk scene. They're trying to do like more dark, deathy, gothy, satanic, like with all their imagery. They're trying to go really macabre, but like it's really, I don't know. It doesn't have like any of the jokiness of like a Blink-182 or like the other bands that were making kind of like punk pop music at the time.
So like I can tell you, it was like actually fairly refreshing to me to listen to this album, and I know for you it was not. And because I've been listening to like legitimately just like dubstep.
Yeah.
So like going back, and which all is bad in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I go back and forth. I'm like, oh, all music is just fun, like cringe in a different way that I love. What you just said is like that I am an Alkaline Trio fan for a couple of reasons. And so to me, this album really reminds me of like, it sounds like the way Orange County looks and feels, but it is a time and place with me.
Yeah,
right?
that's
like,
probably for you because like they're Midwest guys.
I know. It sounds to me like an Orange County album.
Orange County album sounds like something corporate.
That's not the way I feel about it.
You just say this
that
because
sounds
you
like
probably
Venice.
listened to
Something corporate sounds
There's
like
a
Venice.
literal clip of you saying this Something Corporate album sounds like Orange County.
Well, because that's what. No, that was a Jack's Mannequin album.
Okay.
So I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying. Like, and I can tell you like why is because like, okay, I'll get into it, but that's like, I actually do think that if you go to like Huntington Beach, specifically, like that area, like this is very like, oh, this is the audio version of that in a way that is not also like the TSOL and the other like Orange County punk bands. It feels like that adjacently. But
I'll give it to you, but I mean, I definitely feel like, you know, they're from Chicago. It was cold and dark and dreary. They recorded it up at that same fucking studio in like Wisconsin where they did or they did it in Minnesota at Pachyderm Studios where Nirvana tracked In Utero.
Interesting.
So like it's to me, like when I listen to it, just knowing that context, it doesn't sound sunny to me. It sounds dark and dreary.
Yeah, I think it does to me from time and place. And like that's the cool thing about I guess about music, where it's like I can specifically when I put it on, I was like, oh hell yeah, OC. But it differed. This album particularly like differed from their like first couple, because the first couple like the first two albums were like more punk.
Yeah, this is their first album that came out on Vagrant Records. The first two records came out on a record label called Asian Man Records.
Hilarious. And also the dude from
Mike Park from Asian Man.
Yeah, he's literally
the Asian man himself.
He was probably like the only Asian that cared about ska.
Yeah.
Ever. And to the point where he was like, I'm starting a label. And, you know, there was like, it's like one guy, one Asian dude that's like,
he's the Asian man.
There's like one. Well, there's two. I guess my friend Vic Chan.
He liked ska?
Well, there's two Asian guys that like ska.
Vic Chan and Mike Park.
And Mike Park owned the label. He also played in like a lot of
Who, Mike or Vic?
Mike. He played in like Skank and Pickle and shit.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah,
what did he play? Trombone?
I don't know what he played, but I'm sure it was like along probably.
Violin?
I don't know.
Anyway.
But it's just funny that like like I think it's just so funny that there was like one guy that liked it so much and he was like, I am starting a label, and like I've never met another Asian person that was like,
yeah, ska's my thing. I'm gonna start a label. Dude, yeah, I don't know a lot about Alkaline Trio. Admittedly, like I never listened to them before.
I think that's fine.
But from what my research has shown me is that this album was very transitional for the band. So this was their first step up from Asian Man to Vagrant. So they had like some better distribution. Also, there was some lineup changes. These guys were really into another Chicago band called the Smoking Popes when they started. And then they needed a new drummer, so they recruited Mike Fulumley of the Smoking Popes to replace the original drummer Glenn Porter for this album. And Mike Fulumley is on the album cover, and he is no longer the drummer of Alkaline Trio or the Smoking Popes.
And for the record, the album, there was a time, what was it? When
we have an inside joke about the Smoking Popes, which is really, really early on in Emo Night history. We got an interview on K-Rock with Ted Stryker, and Emo Night had just started, and he was like trying to explain to the audience like what Emo Night was, and he rattled off a list of bands. He's like, all right, I'm going to list some bands. You tell me if they're played at Emo Night. And he's like, My Chemical Romance. Yep. Brand New. Yep. Taking Back Sunday. Yep. The Smoking Popes.
And then did you say Smoking Nopes?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, I don't think we were like in the, we didn't know, I didn't know too much about this.
More like the Smoking Nopes.
Yeah. So that is funny. I like that. And it has transcended time and space.
Every time somebody says Smoking Popes, I think Smoking Nopes now.
Yeah. It's like one of those things that like, that's just here for life.
Yeah.
this album, From Here to Infirmary, was alongside all of these like, or Alkaline Trio, I guess, was alongside all of the things that I loved.
Okay.
Like on like these Vagrant.
Okay, yeah. Vagrant had great stuff at the time. They
Like-
had Saves the Day, they had
The
Dashboard.
Get Up Kids. It was like alongside those like Vagrant samplers. Like, so, you know, and I think that they did a really good job of picking the Alkaline Trio songs that went really well.
Do you remember in particular what songs they had on the Vagrant samplers that attracted you to the band originally?
I mean, we could probably look, but it was, I feel like it was like a Calling All Skeletons and like, I don't know. It was, it might have been the fucking first or second song off of this album, which like, I like it when people are like, this album is poppy. And I'm like, is it, or can you just like, is it just not punk? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's poppy, but what it did is solidify the sound that is Alkaline Trio. And I use this metaphor a lot, or this example a lot, where the Block Party reference, where he does the like, that's in that melody line is in a lot of Block Party songs. And Matt Skiba, one of my favorite alcoholics, does the same thing, where he kind of found this melody that works for him and the band, and you can listen to a Alkaline Trio song and go, this is an Alkaline Trio song.
His songwriting style is really interesting to me. Like, I feel like he's so kind of direct. Like, there's even like one song on this album where he's like, this is a song about growing up, in case you were wondering. You know?
Yeah.
And he kind of, it's his like tone, like the way he says things, it's not as like necessarily as like aggressive as like some of the other frontman of the time that were singing about dark shit, but he's still singing about dark stuff.
So I have a good, what did I write here? It's just like, this album was like you said, it's dark, but it was like in a, I'm insane, but I kind of look normal.
Yeah.
And it like, I think it vibrated with people like that, which was like a very unique,
Insane.
specific group that wasn't like, I'm like, oh yeah, I look crazy.
Maybe that's why Alkaline Trio tattoos are so popular, because it's kind of like I look normal, but when I roll up the sleeves of my Oxford, you'll see I have the Alkaline Trio logo here, I'm actually a fucking dark guy.
You're kind of like getting the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it captured like a pretty good snapshot of lyrics that were like in time, where it's like, I don't know, like that were very like, I'm sick, I need a doctor, who the hell are you? I have to go to the hospital, there's a murder, you know, like, I'm nuts, we're nuts. But then, and hail Satan, but it's like this normalcy on top of it that I think was a huge selling point for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of almost like accessible goth, like coming out, like there's a very famous video of them performing at the Metro in Chicago, and they're all wearing like the priest collars, and then they have like bloody makeup on. It's like really like entry level satanic goth.
Well, Matt Skiba like did buy like a membership to the
I know he
Church of
did get like
Satan,
pretty into it for a second.
which like I know we were talking about the other day, because we were talking about like Black Craft Coal and like this was around the time of that other brand that I was talking about, like Actual Pain. This was like this was like that time.
Okay.
And it like is a pretty specific, that like group of people that were about it. And it's like, it really, I do, after, when we do these things, I'm like, oh fuck, like I understand like why people are like, why this album is referred to as like so, kind of game changing, because it's a great snapshot in time for a very specific group of people. And it also like they were also just kind of like among all of the stuff that at least I liked. So I liked them adjacently.
Well, one thing that I know you loved, Green Day and Blink-182.
Yes.
This album, they brought on very professional, esteemed mixer, Jerry Finn.
Yeah.
Who we've talked about a bunch on this pod. He did AFI, all the Blink records, Green Day records, and he worked with Alkaline Trio, but he just did the mixing. They worked with this other homie named Matt Allison on literally everything that they ever did, and then they just kind of shipped it off to Jerry Finn for the final touches.
Which, you know, he produced it, which I would argue, yes, but I would also say he kind of just pressed record, which is honestly that's one of those things that I said in the beginning where it sounds negative, but it's kind of exactly what the album needed. Like they didn't need to do a ton of shit. Yeah. And
they are a trio at the end of the day, you know, and like you're going to be left with some space. There's a lot of space on here for them to do stuff.
Yeah, it's not Alkaline Quattro.
No. Quartet.
There's my friend Steven, you met him. He loved Alkaline Trio.
Oh, really?
Loved Alkaline Trio.
Loved or loves?
I don't know if I think he's like kind of like a family man now. Okay. I'm sure that there's
he probably rolls up his Oxford sleeves to reveal
I
his
think he
Alkaline
got a lot
Trio
of tattoos
tattoo
removed. He like,
oh, really?
Yeah, he went like the
straight man.
I went to Dallas and I'm married and I do business and music was my past life. But he was like one of the best songwriters I ever met. And it's a shame that he doesn't do it anymore. But we were in a band and I had listened to one of the things that we did recently. And there's like 3 songs that are just Alkaline Trio songs.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's legitimate.
Just heavily influenced.
They just are Alkaline Trio songs.
That's funny. Well, they had 15 songs, like you said. He kind of just pressed record because Alkaline Trio came in like super prepared. They had 15 songs and they were like, we're going to just narrow it down to 12. And 2 of those songs didn't make the record. Well, 3 actually. I don't know what happened to the one that is not mentioned, but there's another song called Hell Yes and another song called My Standard Break from Life that ended up on a 7-inch single and UK bonus tracks. I don't know what that other third song is that ended up on the cutting room floor, but they were like, needs to be 12 songs, needs to be tight, 38 minutes. I know you love a short record, but god damn it, bro. When I was listening to this yesterday, I was like, when is this over?
See, I listened to it again is the thing. Like I put it on, but
that's
I was also
so
like,
funny because when I got to the end of it, I thought that my Apple Music was going to be on repeat and I was like, not again.
Yeah.
I literally said that out loud in my car. I was like, I can't do that again.
Yeah. See, I like it. I forgot that I do like it a lot. It is just one of those things that like, it's so specifically in a time and place that I never go to it. And then when I'm like there, I'm like, fuck, cool.
It's weird for me because I feel like there's kind of like 2 pillars of the music that we listen to that I like. And then there's like stuff in the middle that I don't really like, which is like, I really like the pop punk, like fun stuff, silly stuff. Blink-182, like Good Charlotte, like really pop punk, like we're shitting out of our ass and having boners.
Ass shitters.
But then I also like the stuff that's like brand new and Taking Back Sunday. And like that's like more, you know, musical. Like the songs are like weirder structure. They're not necessarily like, you wouldn't like listen to, you know, later brand new records and be like, this is a pop punk album. Like there's all this stuff in the middle, like Bayside, Alkaline Trio, like that kind of like middle of those 2 things that just I never listened to. I also
didn't. And Alkaline Trio was like the one of them that I did. And so, because I get it. Like I really feel like, so what you're saying is like this fit that thing and it did it perfectly, I think. Like being right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's like why this is so important to people. Like I do, because I feel like what it was doing is exactly that. And it was also just like, you know, at the time, like the actual pain stuff, it was like the devil's dick, you know, like shit like that. And people were like into that shit at the time, which I think he's like now like a Buddhist-y.
Is he?
I think he's like really like
Skiba?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really like Matt Skiba. I think he's
never
like
met him. I don't know him.
I'd never met him either, but like I think he is cool. I think that he has a really good, especially with like the Blink stuff. He was like very, you know, he knew that he probably was going to get like shit on by like Blink.
It's a tough position to fill.
It's a very tough position to fill. And I think he did I was like, I guess you're right. Nobody would have been better for this.
Yeah.
And like, it kind of just goes to show that he like was part of this scene, influential, like friends with everybody. And then when he like left, and he was like super supportive of like Tom getting back in. And I really liked that. I thought that was like a cool thing to do. And the fact that he like came up with them and played the song like at this Palladium thing, I thought like, I don't know. I think that in general, he's like a cool guy.
Yeah.
And he also just like was part of this scene that like, I also think that like you didn't really like a lot, but it was like Rocket from the Crypt, which I loved. And then like Face to Face, which I didn't really listen to. You know, so it's like there are these things that like he is absolutely part of in these like very specific punk scenes. And Alkaline Trio was very specific. Like the guy from fucking Rocket from the Crypt played with them, which is Bosnian coded as hell, by the way. Rocket from the Crypt is like incredibly Bosnian coded. And, you know, it's like it is a very specific, a really specific moment in time. And I think they did it perfectly.
Did you know... Well, who knows if this is even true or if this is them like trying to play it up. But they said that the place that they recorded this, Pachyderm Studios up in the woods of Minnesota, was really haunted. They were like, it was so fun. It was like haunted house vibes. And we had nothing else to do because we were in the woods. We would just like work on music like around the clock. And it was a great time recording it.
No, I had that's when I said I like didn't do any like I was
He
like,
said the studio was beautiful, but quote, haunted as shit. So, you know, trying to get into that like spooky goth.
Yeah, it's like they rode that line like really, you know, the cover, like, look, I think now is like kind of corny, but like it is.
At the time, though, they were pushing the envelope.
And like pretty iconic.
Like to put a 666 clock on your album cover at this time, especially in like punk and emo, I think was kind of unheard of. Like they definitely were the first ones to kind of like take that dark, macabre sense of, I don't know, what the fuck, theatrics, and put it into like emo and punk.
Like the imagery.
Yeah,
too.
like obviously you get down the line and you have stuff like My Chemical Romance, but I also think like that never really would have entered the realm of emo. Because up until this point, you pretty much were, you know, you had like the Saves the Days and the Jawbreakers of the world, and they were strictly singing about heartache. They weren't trying to bring in any of this sort of like metal imagery or like spookiness.
No, I think that like this is why I like this podcast, because it like really does open it up to be like, oh, why is this influential and why is this good, and like, is it the greatest like musically? Look, Alkaline Trio loves they have a chord and they love this chord. You know, they have this melody line and they love that melody line, and it's like, yeah, that's what makes them them. It doesn't have to be insane. There's a really good quote that's like a shockingly accurate and not a bad review that was like from the Dick Suckers at Pitchfork, but like it was. This is what it says. It sounds bad, but then it goes into like not. There's quite a bit of that Alkaline Trio, that music that is not challenging, ambitious, or visionary. It's not clever or self-aware. It's not even terribly skillful. But what it is tasty, pure musical junk food, fast, greasy, crafted for a general palate. He criticized some of the music as a tad too derivative for your average rock snob, but praised the band's lyricism and ability to turn a phrase, though noting that they would occasionally jar you back to reality with bonehead moves like spelling out the very, very thin disguised metaphor for the listener. Ultimately, though, he concluded, for all of its flaws, From Here to Infirmary remains nothing more than simply what it is, a tuneful, consumable, and guiltily satisfying. And I was like, yeah, ultimately, like, that's kind of a, like, he's like being a, you know, like, again, like, dickhead, cocksucker, pitchfork guy. But, like, I feel like he's doing everything in his power to be like, how do I make this sound bad when actually I liked it? You know?
Yeah. Also, Pitchfork is like a Chicago institution. So I feel like he was probably like friends with some of their friends or like knew them too. So I don't know. Maybe he was trying to be like kind of cool, but also maintain that it was like decent.
Whatever, dude. Those guys are all just like cocksuckers.
Yeah. Oh, I did find one fact about the artwork that I think that you would think is cool because I know that you like these guys. Okay, so the artwork was actually put together by Joby J. Ford of the band The
Ford
Bronx.
Motors?
The Bronx.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I do like the Bronx, and I do like Mariachi El Bronx.
I guess that the label was making the album covers when they were like touring and shit, and then it just got to a point where they're like, this sucks. How about you just take a picture of us and then you get rid of our eyes? He said, make the eyes go away.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a funny thing to say.
And that's how they got this album cover.
Let me see. No, it's just like, look, I got into them because I'm sure that this was a time of like sampler albums.
Vagrant Records sampler got you into Alkaline Trio.
Yeah, this was like very drive-through sampler, Vagrant sampler time period for me.
I mean, it's funny that you are so nostalgic about this album because NME called it one of the top 20 pop punk albums which will make you nostalgic. It just has that feeling to it. It almost feels like the way that you kind of think about emo night. Like you put it's like about like, you feel like you're singing along with your homies in the car, you know?
That's the way that like I kind of think about this, but I was like, you know, again, I think it was like, I might have been literally, you know, this was like at a time where if you were a year older or a year younger than somebody, your musical tastes were like pretty different. And, you know, that was like, for me, I was a little too young for, I think, like Face to Face and Hot Water Music and shit like that. So it wasn't like I didn't really know if it was inspired by that. And I think it was, but I wouldn't really know.
Mm-hmm.
And so this to me just sounded like that like, you know, I really like the melody lines that Matt Skiba uses. I like that that review was like, it's not self-aware. And I like kind of think it is. Maybe not at the time, but like looking back at it, I don't know. Also, the guys in the band were like, this album sucks.
Yeah, I saw this Vice article with Dan Adriano, and they asked him to rank all 8 Alkaline Trio albums, and I think he put this one as number 7.
Yeah, they were like, we don't,
because they were
this.
Yeah, I think that the way that I've heard them talk about it, it was like we were trying to do something that we didn't know how to do yet. So that's, you know, I think that really sums it up, because they're figuring themselves out as a band creatively and everything. They're in this like transition from, you know, a Chicago punk band to this sort of like gothy emo band on like a larger label in sort of a different scene. And yeah, when you listen to this album in the context of other Alkaline Trio albums, I think people would say this is like when they were figuring themselves out, and the band included.
You can tell too, because like the first couple of songs like sound like Alkaline Trio, and then it like gets a little lost in the middle for me somewhere, but I still like it. But the first like couple of songs, you're like, that is Alkaline Trio.
My hot take is that I really like the Dan songs better than the Matt Skiba songs.
Oh, you can let him know.
I will.
There was like warning. I read this on Wikipedia. This is like one thing I looked up. They were on Asian Man Records, and so many people like complained about not being able to find their albums in stores, which is like again funny time and place that they couldn't buy the album. That's why they like switched over.
Yeah, that's why they got like a record deal with Vagrant. Like even Mike Park from Asian Man was like, yeah, you guys should probably go to a bigger label that can give you better distribution, better manufacturing, because they were running out of albums. It's a good problem to have, I guess, right?
Really like kind of cool and like a funny thing to like, that is like just what a unheard of thing at, now.
Yeah.
To be like, I had to go to the store and couldn't find an Alkaline Trio song.
Anything else to add here before we jump into our interview with Dan? Stupid Kid. It was one of the two sing-along anthems on this, Private Eye and Stupid Kid. This became their first album to chart. Barely. They made it to number 199, but they did it. And then the album also did number 9 on Billboard's independent charts.
Wonder what was 200.
Do you have specific standout tracks?
Yeah, I think the first like two fucking songs.
Private Eye.
Yeah.
Private Eye is definitely like the one that I think people think of when they think of this song. And I don't know if it's just because it's the first, or it's the one people think of when they think of this album. And I don't know if it's just because it's the first song on this album and it kind of like the rest of the songs all sound like it. Or if it's just the best song on this album.
It was just that it was like the first time that I heard them do like that. Like it feels like, oh, this is this is an Alkaline Trio song.
Stupid Kid. They had a crazy music video for it of a boy turning into a puppet.
Which, by the way, this was like at a time. I think the dude from Vagrant Sister directed it, and this was at a time that like I want everybody to. Take a step back and be like, this was a time when like being a music video director was so cool.
Yeah, well, you also probably had crazy budgets to work with too.
It was just like the coolest thing you could do. That is a cool thing to, he's like the sister, or the dude's name was Richard also, because the guy from owned Drive-Thru, whose name was Richard, but his sister directed it. And it was like, I don't know, it's just like literally like at that time you couldn't get cooler than being like a music video director. And now it's like you couldn't, like I would
have a worse job.
Yeah, it's literally like I
get a real job.
I don't get. I turn down every submission except Nirvana. I wrote on Nirvana last year.
I mean, the video that Free and Joy did for fucking Sabrina Carpenter is really sick.
Really?
Nathan did. It's a new one.
Nathan did. I didn't watch it.
You'll love it.
Yeah,
you will
Nathan's
love
amazing.
It. You'll love that one. That's got your name written all over it.
Nathan is amazing.
The song Armageddon from this album actually ended up on Tony Hawk's Underground in 2003. That's a more like upbeat one. And that one has it's a song that has like trading vocals between Dan and Matt, which is cool. And then Crawl. I like Crawl because it's a Dan song. I think it's good. And that one was on one of the Vagrant Records samplers. So
look up like what
sampler you got?
Yeah, let's look up really quick.
We'll have to see.
Vagrant. Let's see. What year was this? Did you say?
The album came out in 2001. I don't know when this would have been on the thing.
See. Record. Yeah. Okay, Vagrant Records. Private Eye was on it. Yeah, this was it. This is the one I had. It was Private Eye, Your Bleeding Heart by Reggie and the Full Effect, Screaming Infidelities, Overdue by Get Up Kids, I'm Not Invisible by Rocket from the Crypt, At Your Funeral, Saves the Day.
Oh, these are all your favorites.
Yeah, this
and
was
then which one was Alkaline Trio?
Private Eye.
Private Eye, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So like that was like a very...
Private Eye.
That was a big one for me.
My favorite lyric, but also like the worst lyric. Do you know what it is?
No.
It's like, if assholes could fly, this place would be busier than O'Hare.
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of, I mean, like, yeah. Sure. You know?
It's so funny. Let's see. That's about it for me. Any if you like this, you might like that.
I mean,
New Boys. For me, I wrote Bayside, Creeper, and then the Menzingers.
Creeper's a pretty good one for you to suggest.
The Menzingers, though.
Menzinger,
I hear a lot of
I
Menzingers.
love the Menzingers.
I do too.
I really like them.
I like Menzingers more than I like Alkaline Trio.
Yeah, I mean, they're different. But I think that, like, if you like this, you would like that.
And then there's a Pup album, came out in 2019 called Morbid Stuff.
That's a great...
I feel like that is a perfect tie-in to this album, which is also a bunch of morbid stuff.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Were these just the Spotify recommendations or no?
No. No Spotify recs on here. That came out in 2019. If I look at Spotify, it's going to be like Blink-182.
Yeah, true. I wonder what it is. I bet it is that.
Alkaline. Do you know that they just got their name by opening the dictionary? And they're like, we're a trio. What word should we put in front of it?
I didn't know that.
And they didn't get very far in the dictionary because they were just like, oh, alkaline.
Pretty good.
Perfect.
It's not bad. It's not like a bad name.
No. Fans also like Phoenix TX, Less Than Jake, MXPX, Saves the Day, Against Me. They do have the Menzingers on here.
I think your suggestion is better. Like Phoenix TX. What was the second one?
Less Than Jake.
Nah.
I mean, maybe it has same fan base, but they don't sound like that.
It's because of Asian Man.
Because of the ska.
All right.
Okay.
You got stuff to do. Got to go wash the dog.
That is it, guys. Thank you so much for listening to CD Burners. Stay tuned for our interview with Dan Adriano from Alkaline Trio. The Italian.
An Italian interview. Real Italian interview.
The Italian man from Asian man. Dan Adriano.
Stay tuned.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for doing this, dude. I really, I have been a very big Alkaline Trio fan for a long time. So you joined Alkaline Trio later, right?
Well, in relative terms, pretty early on. But yeah, it was 1998. I was the second bass player. They did a couple things, like a 7-inch before I got in the group, and that was about it, like a demo tape.
Did you like? I always wonder this about when people are not like the original members. Did you feel like you were an original member? Or did you find it that you needed to take? It took a little bit of time to get to that place where you're like, I am part of this band.
Well, Matt and Glenn were so rad. You know, initially me coming in my first rehearsal and everything, like I definitely felt like I was part of the band from pretty soon after showing up. But in terms of like being original member or whatever, like I would never do that disservice to Rob, because him and Matt and Glenn obviously started something pretty special. And even though Rob was in the band for, I don't know, maybe a year, not very long in the grand scheme of things. Again, it'd be like, I would never say I'm like the original bass player. That would just be a little weird.
To me,
because Rob laid the groundwork. Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, it's like I've been there for every full length record, for, you know, like I said, everything but that first demo tape that got me excited about the band. That was going around like our hometown, you know, making its way through the cassette recorders of me and all my friends. And then, they did that 7-inch, and then that was pretty much it.
So I have, look, I think the cool thing about this podcast is, we do a fair amount of research on, what we know, and then do a decent amount of research and talking to friends and other people in the scene and people we grew up with. And I think Alkaline Trio, at least for me, has been one of these bands where I'm like, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is like a true thing or like a real thing. And, it's funny because there are incredibly dedicated Reddit subreddits to Alkaline Trio. Have you looked through any of those? Because I pulled a pretty good amount of shit where I was like, I'm going to ask, this might just be a psycho person on Reddit making up shit, but I'm gonna ask Dan. You know.
I honestly stay away from that stuff pretty well. Like I don't look at too much of it at all. I know there's a big Alkaline Trio fan group, and I know a few of the people involved at this point, and they're great. Their hearts all in the right spot, and they're all like, they're fans. They're not looking, because some people are just looking for dirt. Some people are looking for weird shit, and we've been really fortunate that our fan base is just awesome. I mean, for the most part, they're all really great. They've all got really insanely nice things to say to us whenever we meet, whenever we cross paths. But as far as like looking at Reddit or looking at the message boards and stuff, or what used to be called message boards, I don't even know. Like I can't, because it's just too deep of a rabbit hole for me. Like, because I would see things like that. I would see things that I'd be like, that's not true. And I'm certainly not the guy that's gonna like get into it with someone and then someone be like, well, you're probably not even Dan, and then have to like justify or prove who I'm not going through any of
dude,
that,
I'm the same way.
know?
I don't look at any of like our comment. Occasionally I'll open, and then if somebody says something so crazy, I'll just like be like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
Like somebody on this is going to be like, Morgan, how could you not ask this? You suck so bad, blah, blah, all this shit. And then there's going to be people like, Dan rules. Thank you for doing this. It's just like, it's the way it goes with the world that we live in. But
It really is.
You did just mention your fans, and myself being one of them. And then a lot of my friends growing up being them. And today we're pretty different. Like we're pretty different people. And from your perspective, this album in particular, especially on the internet, where they were like, this is a, they're moving more towards, less away from like punk, more towards like this catchy version of Alkaline Trio. So the question is like, who are your fans? And yeah, let's talk about that actually first, because I do want to talk about the thing that I just mentioned.
Like if I see us in some genre, like are we a pop punk? Are we an emo band? Are we
like your fans?
Vampires?
Yeah, like
how do they see us?
How do you see them? How do they see you in your perspective? Because
I mean, just from where we came from, like from the scene we came from in Chicago, the places we started playing when we first started touring. I mean, I still think we're a punk rock band, and I still think we have punk rock fans. And I try to, at this point, that's kind of hard to, there's so many factions of punk rock and so many things that you could say about all of that. But like we came from that like VFW, we played the Fireside Bowl in Chicago, and then, us playing the Metro in Chicago was like, at a point that was like the biggest venue in the world to us, which is only like 1,100 people. And then when we started touring, it was more, Matt booked our first tour with like Maximum Rock and Roll and, just getting phone numbers from other bands and calling people, calling just random folks or kids and being like, hey, we're going to be in New Jersey on this day. Can we have a show? And it's like, yeah, you end up going there and playing in some other like, Firehouse or VFW hall or whatever. And that was touring for a lot of bands, and the bands that we had all come from before Alkaline Trio kind of did all that shit the same way. So very much like come from that like DIY punk rock scene, which all changes over time, obviously. But, that in itself, the fact that like Matt booked our first tour is awesome for me to think about, and kind of hilarious at this point. Trying to remember, everything that went down on that tour. But
dude, I actually wanted to talk about like it was like the world looked a lot different, and you guys, you're talking about that first tour. I think the thing that's difficult to look up or ask about is what that was like for you personally, what that was like for the band personally, you know, growing up in these DIY spaces and what the world looked like, how you guys got around, what your day-to-day looked like, making that album, playing that album, touring that album, and like some of the memories that came with that. And, you know, there's no way to look that up except to talk to the people that were actually in that band. And so like some of the things that you look back super fondly on, some things that really stick out to you about that time period is like what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like you said, because there was no, this was our first record, our only record that we made with a drummer called Mike Fellamley. He was in another Chicago band called Smoking Popes, and they were like our fucking heroes, and still are in a lot of regards. But the fact that we had already made 2 records with Glenn Porter was the original drummer, and you know, we had already done a couple tours, but those tours they're all in the van. They're all pulling over 30 minutes before you get to, you know, St. Louis or Denver or wherever, and finding a payphone so you can call the promoter. Like, we're still doing that kind of shit. And then, so I guess I'm getting off track a little bit, but like when Glenn is no longer in the band and Mike joins the band, like that was really only a big deal to us and like a very select, or I shouldn't say select, but a very small number of people, because there was no Reddit, there was no Instagram to post everything on, or Facebook or what have you. And so it was just like the news gets out slowly. And we start playing shows with Mike, and then we go in to make From Here to Infirmary. And that was not sort of, but it was a big deal for us to get into the studio with a different drummer, with someone that we looked up to. And as soon as Mike started rehearsing with us, we were like, this is crazy. It's different. You know, he plays a little bit like Glenn, but he plays a lot more straightforward. He plays with more power. And Glenn was more like jammy and tribal, almost like, you know, Jimmy Chamberlain or something, you know, like the styles were very different. And I think that lent itself a lot to that record getting a little poppier. Like you were saying, like that was more of like a pop punk record, a little less drony and rambly, like the structures got more concise. But that wasn't like because we signed to a major label and worked with a major label producer who was like, you guys should do this or that. Like it sort of naturally happened. Like Matt started writing.
Yeah, it was like the natural progression of the band, which I think is, you know, I think especially in at least, you know, punk and emo and these things that people hold so dear to their heart, if things change, they feel like it's an attack on them. Instead of like looking at the natural progression of people and artists and being like, you're not allowed to grow because I don't want you to.
Right. Because I have ownership of this. It's only mine. When I'm at the lunch table wearing your T-shirt and the jocks at the other table are like, who the fuck is that? There's like a certain pride in that, right? And that was all the 90s. And so that's like, and I was that kid, I think, you know, much younger to a certain extent. You know what I mean?
We all were. We're all kids, you know, at some point.
It's like when Green Day broke and it was like, what just happened? You know, my whole world changed when Dookie came out, you know, it was crazy. But that's, you know, it's just one of those things. In a way, it's awesome because it means you've done something different. And it's sort of like you're still getting their attention. And I think a lot of people at this point love From Here to Infirmary. I mean, that record, signing to Vagrant and making that record helped us in ways that I can't even count anymore. That was the first record we ever toured internationally on. We had an actual single for the first time in England and, you know, in other places. And it was a little mind blowing.
For you, was
crazy.
that like a, you know, like you're a young kid then? That's like, is that surreal? Like, do you look like when because growing up, I also played in a bunch of DIY shit, like did all that stuff. And, you know, that didn't happen to me. I was never in like a big band.
Right.
That was the goal, right? That was the goal, is to do the thing that you did. And, you know, I still look back on those days, even though I do something completely different now and we do like, you know, similar but different things. I look back on those days with such fondness, and I just like, I wish that I, at least at the time, kind of knew. I wish I could put myself in a position to be like, remember this moment, right?
Right.
And like, I'm just like wondering for you, was that like a very surreal thing to get signed to Vagrant, to tour with all of these bands, and to do the thing that, like, growing up in that scene, that's what you do.
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. Like the first time we ever stepped on a tour bus was kind of surreal, because we had all done so many tours in various shitty vans, slightly nicer vans, but you're still in a band, you know, like, and it, like in Chicago, the band kept like, you know, just getting a little bit bigger, but that all made sense. It's like, this is our hometown. And every time we play a show, we got a little more selective about, do we actually turn down a show, or like, you know, and wait another month because we want to, you know, we don't want to burn people out. And started thinking in terms of that. Was a little weird. But yeah, first time ever going to England and playing songs from Here to Infirmary, after like Stupid Kid and Private Eye were singles and like kind of made a mark over there, was wild, because that was like, you know, going to England for the first time ever and playing a club slightly called the Astoria, which is no longer there, but it was, you know, kind of like the Metro, slightly bigger and just sold out and crazy and people like losing their shit. That was one of those moments where you definitely take a mental picture. But for a lot of it, it was just go, go, go. And we were very into, having a case of beer around at all times, and certain things that just like didn't necessarily allow us to remember everything, but also made it a lot of fun. You know, we were definitely in the moment, which doesn't allow you to remember the moment all the time.
Yeah, but it makes it, you know, that's what makes it. And I think that's the
Yeah.
strange thing about this whole thing that we are doing, which is life, right? And I, you know, for me, I discovered Alkaline Trio through Vagrant samplers, which was the most, the Vagrant samplers and the drive-through samplers were the most important like CDs of my youth. And you guys,
that's cool.
They really were. They're legitimately like
like Another Year on the Streets, that shit, right? Yeah, that was great.
Exactly that. You know, like growing up, I think like Saves the Day was the thing that like I was like, oh, you can be punk and also be cat, because I love pop. I'm a pop guy.
Me too.
And I think
Saves the Day fucking they changed, like, I wouldn't say they changed our band, but touring with them early on, like in those first couple of Vagrant tours we did, was amazing, because watching Chris and those guys in that first iteration of that band, like, do what they did and get, like, their evolution was crazy and fast, from Through Being Cool to Stay What You Are. Like, Stay What You Are is kind of a perfect album, in my opinion, from front to back.
I agree.
And it's like, and I love Through Being Cool, but when I heard Stay What You Are, I was like, oh shit, we can do that? Like, I want to do that. Like, I want to get musical, and I want to include weird chords, and I want to write songs. And then like seeing Chris kind of like, I don't know, I hope I'm not stepping out of bounds here, but like kind of discover some drugs see where that like took him, like while we were on tour together, and see this kind of change happen like firsthand. And it was pretty special. It was cool to be around for that.
Yeah, we talked to, you know, this, I don't want to make it, I could make this all about Saves the Day. I love Saves the Day, but it's not like, you know, their thing. But we do talk to so many artists, and they say very similar things that you said, and like their inspiration, how they came up, how they started growing is all, a lot of it leads back to Saves the Day. And it always struck me as so strange where it's like, you know, they had At Your Funeral, and I'm like, as maybe, I don't know, maybe it was on the radio, but I'm like, you could literally throw a fucking rock at whatever song is on those out and be like, this song is just as good, if not better.
It's great. Yep.
And it was very strange to me. They were one of those bands that like resonated with everybody who was like, I don't, do you know what I mean? Like, but it wasn't like public. It was very strange because it's so amazing. But anyway, back to you guys. You did talk about like Chris, like discovering his sound and discovering like what he can do. And from here to Infirmary, did that for Alkaline Trio for me. Like when I use this analogy, I think in this, in the podcast that we did about this, but Block Party has this melody line that they repeat a lot throughout a lot of songs. Like it's a thing that's like, and it's like they do that in a lot of songs. And I go, oh, that's a Block Party song. And, but it also does this thing that solidifies them and distinguishes them from other artists that sound like similar. And Alkaline Trio did that with the melody lines. And not only that, but with the chords and the way that you guys put together songs. It didn't sound, it sounded like it fit in those, between those bands, but it didn't sound like those bands. And I'm just, were you guys like, oh, this is our sound when you guys were writing this album? Was there a specific moment you're like, damn, dude, that melody line with what we are writing really fits, and that sounds like Alkaline Trio?
I could say that for sure. I mean, Matt's part of the beauty of Matt's songwriting is that he's a drummer, and for like his first band, he's a drummer, but he's always a lyricist and fiddling around with guitar, but never fiddling around with guitar like, okay, now I need to learn how to play a C major chord, and now I need to learn how to play, an E minor chord. Like he was never that. He was just like, I'm going to learn this and I'm going to play it like this, and I'm going to, whatever makes a cool sound to my ear, that's going to become the song. And so we had a lot of like open drony notes and some octave stuff that you heard in other bands, but the way that he kind of put it together with his own personal melodic tendencies, I think makes him still like pretty unique as a songwriter. Like sometimes I'll just like be in my office and be like, I got nothing in my notebook. I'm going to write a song. Like, what would Matt do? And I'll try to do something, like what would Matt do? And I'll even say it like I still can't really do it the same way. And I've been in a band with him for 27 years, like I know what's coming when he, and that's part of the beauty of Matt and his songwriting is just, he comes from a place of like, I'm just going to do what I think is sounding good. And if it's not, someone will tell me, or like he'll realize, it's not really working, or that's too obvious, or, that's not obvious enough, or whatever happens. But he's definitely got a bit of like his own creation in everything, which I love. Like I come from like not necessarily musically schooled, but like I grew up trying to play Led Zeppelin and then trying to play Metallica and then trying to play Nirvana and Green Day and all this shit as I was growing up, and so I was always trying to just play other songs until I started trying to write songs, if that makes sense, so I had a little bit of a grasp on what might work and what might not work, but that, it still took a long time for me to even get comfortable bringing something to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is a really great, that's just the thing about like bands and artists who are so prolific is like, you're like, even if you try to do it, it's just them. Even if it's the most simple thing, playing a C chord, they're doing it in a way that's their way to do it. We can technically do all of those things, but we're not that.
Right.
And I think that was a really big thing for Alkaline Trio for me, because I could play all those songs. I knew I played Alkaline Trio songs, but I wasn't able to play the Alkaline Trio songs. And I think that's if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and it does.
And so I read a lot of these. Well, when we do this, read a lot of reviews. Most reviews are garbage bullshit that they end up taking back anyway over the period of time where they're like, oh, this album is fucking awesome because the rest of the world came around and was like, oh, this album is awesome. There is one review that stuck out to me, and I'm gonna like butcher the shit out of it because I just remembered it because it's stuck with me. But it was like, yeah, the album is simple. It's not complex. It tried to make it sound like it was a bad album, and at the end of that sentence, they're like, "But it is a fun and catchy album." It's like they had to turn. It's like they tried to be a music review. It's like people were trying to actively find things wrong with something that there might just not have been anything wrong with.
I mean, I get it. There's plenty you could pick apart, I guess. Not plenty. I don't know why I said that, but I mean, I'm still proud of it. But I mean, I get it. You're a music critic, or you're trying to be a music critic, or what have you, and so you're trying to critique. But like, if it's catchy and it's fun, that means you're enjoying it. You know.
I mean, I just like, the thing that I was finding with these reviews is like, it felt like a lot of them felt like they were trying to actively find something wrong, and then they couldn't. And I was just wondering if that was your experience as a guy who was in the band around that time. Is that what you picked up or felt when you're like, damn, dude, no, this is good, but what's happening here?
Again, I don't really know what was happening in terms of reviews. Like, I feel like the shows were getting bigger. The shows were getting, we were having more fun. We were meeting more people, and the people we were meeting were all saying nice things to us. So I think we were just like, we're just going to keep going with this. Like, we never, we weren't like, okay, we got to make another From Here to Infirmary next. But we were like, we did feel more comfortable. Like, we feel like we figured something out while we were making that record in terms of song structure and keeping things a little more concise. So a music critic might say it's a little more simplified or whatever, but to us, it was just like, oh, we made sense. This is what made sense for the song. Because it's funny, like we're getting ready to play Riot Fest, right, in a few months, and we're going to do the album that came out right before From Here to Infirmary. They asked if we'd play Maybe I'll Catch Fire, and we were like, sure, whatever you guys want. We love Riot Fest, and so we were like, sure, we'll do that. And now, I hadn't listened to that song front to back or listened to that album front to back in a while, but there's some songs on that record that, in hindsight, I think if we were making that record today, it would sound pretty different, because we'd have cut things here, we'd have shortened this. And we've talked about it. Like, we played that whole record on a tour like 10 years ago, but we probably would have done some things differently. And I'm not saying it would have sounded more like From Here to Infirmary, but it would have been a little more concise. And so I think we were just figuring shit out. Like, when we made From Here to Infirmary, we learned like, oh, this is what a bridge is. This is what, and it was just through us, like, just making friends and talking about records and talking with each other about what we wanted to do. And, do we need to keep playing this part? Do we need a 60-second intro on this song or what have you? Like, and it's not like we were like, yeah, we just got to get it to the chorus so we can have a hit. It was just like, we gotta get somewhere or we're gonna put people to sleep. It's like, so it became a little bit of, for us, like trying to grow as songwriters, which in a way made the record seem a little more simple, but it was, again, to us, just things started to make more sense as a song. It's like, okay, this is a verse, then this is a bridge, this is a chorus, this is, how we get in and out of these parts, and it's cool. Let's go to this minor here for this, and that feels right, and it's like, oh yeah, this is what. And then when you do it, you're like, oh, this is what Paul McCartney was doing. Not like we were becoming the Beatles, but it's like, oh, this is what makes a pop song. Like, this is what, and
this
I
is
fucking
what
love
makes that sound like that. This is the form, like, and I think,
again, like getting back to Matt, like, and me not really knowing what we were doing, not to cut you off, but like, so it's just it's a progression. You know what I mean? Like we started just making what we thought was cool, and that was right at the time, but then we wanted to change some things and like have, it was fun to talk about songwriting and talk about changes that we were going to make and shit, in the moment, in the studio.
This is like, it is one of my favorite things to talk about, like about that process. And it's like, for me as a very big Alkaline Trio fan, it was I hear that. Like I hear that in the songwriting. I think what makes the album so special is like you can see the progression of you guys growing. And that's that moment in time that makes it feel so amazing. Because like I guess if you were to write these albums now, they would sound different because you're different people. And I think that these are snapshots of time, and at least for me, like really solidified. Like this was one of those albums that like really solidified what I like in punk and what I like in rock and what I like in pop. Like it really did all of that stuff for me.
That's so cool to hear. Thank you.
It really is an important album in a lot of ways. And I want, are you guys aware of the influence that you have had on other artists or people, or I always wonder this from an artist perspective. You kind of change the course of some people's lives and the way that they write music and the way that they perceive music.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to wrap your head around. I feel like we're aware of it at this point, but I try not to like ever think about that too much. Like it's a really cool thing to hear. Like that's a crazy thing what you just said. Like, and I can't. It's hard for me to even express in words like what kind of like how proud that makes me feel as a person, as a musician, as a guy in this band. Like we're blown away by statements like that. But I just found out there was an Alkaline Trio covers album like that came out recently that I didn't even know about. And there's just things that are like, whoa, that's fucking weird. Like there's the town, my dad's been sending me like flyers or online ads for like there's an Alkaline Trio cover band that's been playing around like where we grew up, and it's crazy. It's like this Alkaline Trio band cover band playing with a Green Day cover band playing with a Rise Against cover band, and it's like, what's happening? To be it's so that I mean that's just remarkable, and I'll probably think more about it when I'm a little bit older. I'm still trying to.
I'm always curious to the people that have been so inspirational to so many people. I'm like, do they ever just like sit back when they're going to bed and being like you said, it is a lot to take in, and it's like, it's fucking, at the end of the day, like the answer, what I would say is like, that's awesome. And that really is cool. And I'm very happy that
it's beyond cool. It's amazing. But yeah, I think if I think about things like that too much, it's like, I don't want to just like rest on that or like be content. I still want to make records. And I know for a lot of people, there might be just like rolling their eyes. Oh my God, Alkaline Trio's making another record. Just go on tour and play God Damn It or play the hits or whatever, it's like, but we definitely aren't there yet, So I think if I stay in the mode of like, we still haven't made the record, like we still got to do better, like, and that was really what was fueling our last record. Like when we went into the studio to make our 10th album, it was like, all right, if we're going to make a 10th album, what are we going to do? It's got to be a little different. It's got to be, something else. And that was pretty much all we put out there to each other. It was not like, let's do this or that. It was just like, let's explore some shit and really challenge ourselves if we're going to do it. And that's sort of the mindset moving forward.
There's I think, to out myself a little bit, I am, alcoholic, I do drug, all that shit, but been sober for some time. And so,
damn, congratulations.
Thanks, dude. I just got, it's been like, but there's a thing that lyrically, I think that really stuck with a lot of people, regardless of if the guys in the band were sober at the time of writing or playing or whatever. It's like there's a thing that relates, you can hear it. Even if I didn't know, the internet didn't exist, like really at the time, I couldn't look this shit up. And, I think that there's a really special thing about Alkaline Trio that speaks to people who are, to have that thing. And that thing, whether it be drug addiction, whether it be alcoholism, whether it be like any sort of depression and just any of those things, Alkaline Trio really speaks to them. And that's what I was saying in the very beginning. A lot of my friends look very different. They do a lot of different things with their lives. A lot of them don't work in music. A lot of them are like accountants. And,
right.
You can be like, what is that tattoo on your ankle? And they're like button up shirt and slacks,
right.
And it's an Alkaline Trio tattoo. And that was the thing that, this album and Alkaline Trio in particular, I think I haven't really seen this or heard about it being talked, but I do think that alcoholics and drug people with problems like kind of gravitate towards Alkaline Trio. And I was just wondering if you have noticed that. Have you had that experience?
Yes. It's got a lot to do with us just being pretty open about stuff. And I mean, a lot of it was us trying to, I don't know, mask depression or alcohol. Like we were like I said earlier, like everything we did, there was always a case of beer nearby. There was always a bar. We started playing in bars before I was, old enough to drink in bars. And it was very much about the party as well as the show and the songs for a very long time. But for us, it was like, I don't really know. It's hard for me to speak for Matt in that regard, but I mean, I think for us both, it was a lot of like, internally, we knew we were on a mission. We were like drinking to hurt ourselves. And we were doing whatever drugs you put in front of us to sort of, to hurt ourselves and to feel something different. And, and then we used our songs. Like there was a lot of things that we were not psyched about. We're not a political band, but there's a lot of fucking things out there that are, I mean, worse than ever, as you can imagine, the way I feel, but it's still hard for me to write about them or sing about them. And so we put on this mask of like fun, and it's like, we want our shows to be fun and we want people coming, we want it to be an escape. And so we were escaping things, through drugs and alcohol and songwriting. And we were using the songwriting as like a cathartic tool. So it's like, okay, this is fucking bumming me out. And if I can write about it and mask what I'm writing about in something fun, or use this drug metaphor or this alcohol metaphor or what have you, for a relationship or whatever, it's like, it's a way for me to write about it, get it off my chest, and then I can move on and have fun. You know, it's like, I can't talk to the person that's pissing me off right now. I can't, because I'm too drunk and who knows what would happen, but I can write a song about it, you know? And it was very much like a catharsis. And people, you know, a lot of people, I think, got that. A lot of people take it very literally. A lot of people gravitated towards it, because we're all going through the same things. And there was a place that we, you know, the place that we came from, that we felt a little bit, on the outskirts of the mainstream. We weren't, you know, we were, like I was trying to say before, like, you know, sitting with a few kids at the lunch table while everyone else is looking at you like that's the freak table, or, you know, that's, you know, but we didn't feel like that when we were together. We were just, you know, we were good. You know, we could have fun together. We could write together. We could be honest with each other. And I think that honesty through the songwriting kind of, that's what translated to the people, I think. And it's pretty special. And the things that I've talked about with people, like after shows, you know, walking up to the bus, and there might be a handful of people that want a picture or what have you. And there's usually one or two that want to have a conversation, and they want to talk about things like this. And to this day, it's really hard for me, because I don't really know what to say. Like, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a therapist. I really appreciate the connection. And so I try to just talk, and I try to just be honest. And it usually starts with like, oh my God, thank you. I don't really know what to say. And then 30 seconds later, I can't shut up. You know what I mean? Like, so, and we're just, you know, we're talking about stuff, and we're, you know, when there's a connection, and it's pretty special. And so those moments are still very, very moving, and hard for me to really grasp, you know, except for in the moment. So there's still a connection there, but it's like we've all kind of moved on. Like, I can't really claim sobriety, but I stopped drinking regularly. You know, I didn't drink for like 9 years, not a sip. And then, you know, but I was, you know, smoking a ton of weed through the whole thing. And now I haven't smoked weed for a little bit, and I'm like trying to figure out, like, it's hard. It's fucking hard.
Look,
you know
I get
what I
it.
mean? Like,
I fully get it. Like, I get it. It is hard, and especially like doing the job that you have, right? It's also like, you know, you not only do you have to put on a show, you have to be creative, you have to be outgoing, you have to do all of these things, and you also have to like have a life. And the world is a difficult place, and I think this album really speaks to the world being a difficult place for a lot of people. And I think that's why all these people do come up to you after the shows. And there's a good chance that like I was one of them, you know, a long time ago. I appreciate you talking about that also, by the way. That's cool.
It's such a weird thing. It's like, especially on that record, like we were just, I mean, anything was up for talking about. Anything was fine for a lyric. Like, there's some lyrics on that record that I almost wish I never wrote, but they were part of who I was at the time. I mean, I wrote a song on that record called I'm Dying Tomorrow, where I talk about making sure you take a lot of pills. And it's like the shit that I think about now, it's like that, you know, like, one, drugs were a little different back then, and they seemed a little safer. But it's like the record lives forever, and now and pills are very different, and it's like and you know, it's just this. It seems like a scarier time, even though shit was scary then too. But it just seems a little reckless, and I'm not like ashamed of it, but I'm like, I have this. I get a crappy feeling when we play that song, and sometimes I try to dance around that lyric with something else, or and sometimes I just fucking I just nail it clear. It's the most clear thing I sing, because I'm upset about it or something, and I'm not sure how it comes across, but yeah.
It is really interesting to like, to know that, and I, still all these years later, you being at war with these lyrics that you wrote when you're so young, and I think that
Yeah.
like what a really, I guess that is the testament of good lyrics, right? Like I think, I don't know.
Yeah.
I could
They
be
want to
wrong.
make, yeah, you should want to make people think and stuff. I don't know.
Do you mind if I put some of these Redditors to bed?
Yeah, I would love to go through this. I'm curious.
All right, let's go through. Let's run through
I
these.
hope they're not all true.
We'll find out, and then So Matt and Dan wrote this album at war with each other.
That is not true. I don't think.
So here, I think I pulled a quote.
You'd have to ask Matt, I guess, but that doesn't seem true at all.
I pulled a quote. Ready? So Reddit user Midwest_emo kid claimed Matt's tracks feel jaded and distant. Dan's feel raw and self-destructive. It's like a breakup album with each other.
Yeah, that's just pure speculation.
Yeah, this is awesome, actually. I love doing this.
No, I mean, we were like inseparable at those times. You know what I mean? Like Matt was still in Chicago. We were, I'm trying to think of where I was living. We weren't living together still, but we were together all the time, and we were having so much fun. Oh God.
All right, you hear that, Midwest emo kid?
I get it though, like that record and the subsequent record, Good Morning, like our songs are pretty different. We were still trying to figure out like continuity and how to write, how to balance each other out, like writing wise. Like his songs are very different than my songs, and I understand like why someone would think that, but it was just two different songwriters in the same band. But no, we were having so much fun.
This is awesome. I really like doing this. All right, ready for the next one?
Yes.
Some of these are pretty far-fetched, and you can tell how much people care because of the fandom, right? Like it's actually wild. The album's track list tells a secret story backwards. So one theory suggests that if you listen to the track list in reverse order, it tells a descent into addiction and suicide that plays out like a concept album in disguise.
I wish that were true.
Yeah, it's really fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's some next level thoughtfulness, No, that was these are the songs. And then we took some, we ordered them, we got some advice from the mixer, Jerry Finn, who we worked with for the first time. We felt like Private Eye was a killer opener. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just those kind of things. It was like, oh yeah, Crawl is sort of this slower, like, that's the last song, but not for any conceptual reasons. So I wish that were true.
It's that's how, I mean, it kind of goes to show how much people care about this is the thing.
Yeah, for sure. That's insane. You've put a lot of thought into this.
And that's like, you actually mentioned, like, those are the two songs in particular that they mentioned. They're like, starting with Crawl and ending with Private Eye reframes the whole thing. It's about recovery, not collapse. It's very wild because I never thought about this shit either. I'm like, is it? That's good to know that it's fun. I like that people really fucking care enough to make
I almost feel bad to dispel these because these are great theories.
All right, next one. The cover, and I don't think this one is true. This one I don't think is true, but maybe. The cover is based on a real fan who OD'd outside the Alkaline Trio show, an Alkaline Trio show.
Not true.
There you go. I didn't think that one was true, but this one was like, actually had like a pretty decent amount of like, oh yeah, that is a thing. And I was like,
that was a band photo. And then Joe B.J. Ford, who is, killer dude, member of the Bronx. He was working at Vagrant at the time as a graphic designer. He was like, I did this cool thing with your eyes. And that was about it. And we thought we created that pun from Here to Infirmary. And then someone was like, someone reminded us that was actually a Itchy and Scratchy cartoon from The Simpsons. So I don't know if we subconsciously stole that from The Simpsons, but Matt was like, from Here to Infirmary. And we were like, that's fucking great, And that sort of set us on this long road of punning. We love puns.
You know what? What I didn't see on the Reddit was have you ever seen the like theory that like The Simpsons predicted everything?
Yes.
I didn't see anything on there about that. And that's, so many bands get their name from Simpsons references.
Yes.
And I didn't see that at all. So that's actually there's a new one that they can start talking about.
That's some deep cut trivia there then.
It's not unavailable. All right. Ready? This one was my favorite one because it does show the insanity of some people, which I like.
This is great.
To be fair, I am a fan of the insane shit.
Me too. I love this.
The entire album is about 9/11, and it was prophetic. So this is what it says. Redditors have we've speculated that like the trio had a dark sense of energy or dark sense of dread before the world caught up. And there is a thread about how you guys knew about 9/11 and like this was planned.
Oh my God, that's terribly dark.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, our world was so small. Like, first of all, yeah, there's no way that is, that's true. I mean, sure, we've got a dark sense of dread. And I mean, Matt is very in tune with the universe and more so now than ever. But I think at that time, that was not going through our heads. Like, I don't think anybody saw that coming. And, I didn't fucking know who Osama bin Laden was. I didn't know about beef with the Bush family. I didn't know about anything like that. Like, our world was small and our world was like, the van, the apartment, the practice space, the fireside bowl, the empty bottle. These were our places and these were our concerns. Like making that record at Pachyderm in Minneapolis, outside of Minneapolis. I mean, that was us expanding our universe, and our thought process was very. I mean, I don't want to disappoint anybody, but it was very, it was about us. Like everything we wrote about was about us. We wrote personal songs about people we knew, about relationships, about family, about friends. We wrote, that was what was inspiring us. Like there was no prophetic insight. Damn, I mean that's just gnarly to think about though. Like that someone went there with that record. No.
Like I said, that one was my favorite one, and I can see the like title of this like YouTube clip is that Alkaline Trio new predicted 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah, wild. This one I actually am. It's one of those things where I'm like, did I think this, or did I see this, or did it re-trigger something in my? Did this thing trick me into thinking that I already heard this? So the last one was that there's a hidden song title in the liner notes, and it was meant to be the real title of the album. And so this kid, what did he say? He said that an early Vagrant press kit listed the record under another working title, which I forgot what it was, but it had something to do with the addiction, and which was foreshadowing another thing that they love to do with you guys, which is foreshadowing the album Addiction years later.
Right.
And that's the last one. Like, was there another original title to this album?
I don't think so. I was looking for the record. I got almost all of our records like on vinyl and various releases, and I don't have any copies of From Here to Infirmary at the house. I would look at the liner notes. Like I mean, I don't think we had any other titles for it. We might have, but it wasn't like it wouldn't have been like we got to change this or save it for this, or it wouldn't have been for any reason other than, I don't know, we just like this title better. I don't remember there being anything else.
I like that we just kind of shut down all the Redditors.
I feel bad. I wish some of them were true. I kind of knew none of them would be.
I did. I kind of did too. That was the only one I was unsure of. That one where I was like, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Dan,
that wouldn't be too conspiratorial or too strange.
No, that one wasn't nuts.
I mean, because that shit happens all the time. We've always got, there's usually a couple dry erase boards in the studio with song titles, and then, then there's another one with like potential album titles. That's something that we started doing a bunch of years ago. And for them, they're 98% like hilarious to us, and they wouldn't be hilarious to anybody else. And they're just kind of like joke titles. But yeah, there was nothing even like that back then. Like we were just up to like, again, we were just so caught up in our own shit, in our own, like, so if there was a title that we maybe floated to the label or someone at Vagrant, I forgot about it, but it wasn't anything that ever like meant a lot to us.
Yeah. Nothing stuck, nothing that like actually stuck. Well, Dan, This has been really awesome. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm past the point where I'm embarrassed to say, like, to tell people that I'm fans of them, and I'm a very big fan of Alkaline Trio. And
I love it. Thanks so much. This is really awesome. That's really nice to hear.
Yeah. Well, I hope.
Are you in LA, Morgan?
I am in LA.
Right on.
Are you?
Yeah, we'll be out. No, I'm in St. Augustine, Florida, currently. I've been here for a little bit. But I'll be in LA. Next time we play a show or something, get in touch,
I'd
say
love
hi.
To. I'd love to. I would be.
Hell yeah.
If I'm in town, I would have been there anyway. So.
Right on.
Dan, thank you so much. Good luck at Riot Fest. That is awesome. Riot Fest does kick ass.
It's fun.
And I really appreciate it. It means a lot, man.
Hell yeah. We do too. Thanks so much, Morgan.